Let's jump straight in. So, hi, Kim. Thanks for joining me on Buzz Chats today. First question. Did young Kim ever picture herself going into mining?
First of all, thank you for having me. um, I guess not initially, especially not coming out of school. But definitely, my mum, when I was in about year 11, I went into be a train driver with Horizon. So once I sort of saw her being successful, I sort of started to think about it more. Um, and then, sort of by the year after school, I decided uni wasn't my thing, and I didn't sort of know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be in resources somewhere.
Super interesting. How did your mum find out about train?
I don't actually know how she came across it. And then I think was looking for a change, and they were offering traineeships or something to that effect in Bowen. She's been doing it for probably like nearly 15 years now. So yeah, still loves it, and is hitting a stride in that space. But yeah, I think just seeing her kind of being successful in those areas kind of made me think, oh, like I can look outside of, I guess, immediate university.
So then, did you go straight into trades when you were applying for all these jobs? The trade opportunity, apprenticeship opportunity came up?
Not really. So, I mean, again, kudos to mum. She traveled with me all the way down the East Coast for interviews. So it took me about 7 years to land my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually want to be an electrician. I wanted to be a diesel fitter, to the point where I'd had the same person interviewing me actually from Horizon where I did my apprenticeship. And we were on a first name basis, and he ended up ringing me back and said, "Look, I can't give you diesel fitting in Mackay, but would you take electrical in Toowoomba?"
Yeah.
And at that point, like, I'd been applying for so long, I was like, "Look, I'll go wherever you want me to go, man. Like, I'll, I'll do whatever." So I said yes, and then I went inside and Googled where Toowoomba was because I hadn't even been to Brisbane at that point. So moved in with an old couple off the internet and put all my stuff in the back of my car and road trip down to Toowoomba. And yeah, I haven't left Southeast Queensland since.
So then how did you get into mining? Like being based out on site? Because you are FIFO now, right?
Yeah, so I've been FIFO for nearly 5 years now. So I essentially finished my apprenticeship during COVID. We cast our memory back to how good the job market was during
Yeah.
COVID. So I was unemployed for about 6 months. But before I'd finished my apprenticeship, I'd actually applied for the job with BMA at Dornier, which is where my first site was. Um, so I was kind of unemployed. I actually found a job at the abattoir outside of Toowoomba. So I did 3 whole days there, but essentially BMA finally rang me back, like, 9 months later and said, "We wanna interview you tomorrow at 8 a.m." And I said, "Oh, look, I'm supposed to be working." And they said, "Well, if you can't make it, then that's that." So I quit my job at the abattoir, so that I would be home at 8 o'clock the next day, which is a real theme of my life. I'm very, struck while the iron's hot, take the opportunity kind of person. Quit, went and did the interview, and then was just kind of lucky that I nailed it, because, I got the job and then started a couple of months later. When was that? 2021, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, or 20 end of 2020. And did 3 years there, and as a shift electrician, which was my first, I guess, job as a apart from the 3 days, it was my first job as a qualified electrician.
Yeah.
And then, sort of haven't left the Bowen Basin since, really. Haven't left FIFO.
Good on you. Like basically just having to quit, not sure how to pay the rent, but do it anyway. That's good. So then I'm getting a vibe you enjoy your job out on site. Tell me a really great memory or story that's happened since you've been there.
I do really enjoy my job out on site. Yeah, just been really fortunate with the crew that I've got. Yeah, both past and now. So yeah,
Yeah.
lots of cool little career milestones or work milestones and cool things that we found. But yeah, I think for me it's the people thing that makes me the happiest.
I can definitely relate. When I was living in Middlemount, such fond memories. But when I think back, I'm like, why did I love it so much? And I think it was that, sense of community, even at work, like your team, and just of an afternoon swinging by and having a beer at the golfy before you go home. And I don't know, friendship was quite easy. out on site, I felt. It sounds like you kind of had a similar experience. So, what's an opportunity that mining and the industry has given you that you never really thought would have been possible?
For me, probably mentoring and the awards and the celebration of, um, I guess, women's achievements. I didn't sort of think that that kind of, I guess, thing existed within our industry. And yeah, I've like been a mentor with women in resources now for 4 years, and I've been fortunate enough to be a mentor twice. Sorry, mentee twice. I came runner up a couple of years ago in an award and getting to go to all the industry events. Again, just things that I didn't think existed when I first, I guess, was trying to get into the industry.
So, what does comfort at work mean to you?
I think for me, it's multi-layered. As a, I guess, tradesperson, for me, it's about having facilities. It's about, toilets nearby, that kind of thing. And then PPE has been like a massive one that I've struggled with basically since I was an apprenticeship all the way through to now. Thanks to two certain companies, we are getting a bit of headway, particularly in the electrical space. But I guess like just those little things that like people would call niceties, that do make like a massive difference to us on site day to day. I guess the other layer to that is, yeah, the people that you work with, are you comfortable talking to them? Are you having conversations around mental health, burnout, like all this kind of thing. So I think for me, yeah, comfortability is yeah, those practical things as far as facilities and PPE and days off and that sort of physical stuff. But then further to that is those people that really do create an environment where you can show up as your whole self and you don't feel like you have to pretend that you don't have a whole nother life outside of work, or that you're 100% and there's not stuff that might be bothering you at home, or that your pet's sick, or whatever it is. Being able to just come as you are, and not feel like you have to edit as you go during the day.
Have you seen an improvement in that, or you've always had it pretty good since you've started?
It's not lost to me that I've been pretty lucky within mining. My apprenticeship was definitely the polar opposite of that. And I guess it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that could happen.
So then on the flip side of that, can you share a time where you did feel uncomfortable at work? And you don't have to go into specifics, just what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Um, I mean, for me, I think it still is something that happens pretty frequently. But I think the first one was when um, I had to have conversations around, I guess, like we get it all the time, but like the when you're having kids, like all that kind of stuff, which is, I don't even know why we have to have the conversation, but it comes up pretty frequently.
Really?
And for myself, like I have endometriosis, it's, something that's not on the cards. So I think for me, there's a lot of those times where I do feel uncomfortable and I kind of get stuck in how do I get out of the situation without going, oh, I can't have kids, and then have to have an even more uncomfortable conversation off the back of it. So I think there's lots of those times when, like, and I'm guilty of it in a lot of regard as well. There's lots of times where something comes out of my mouth before I've really had a chance to kind of think it through. But I think there's lots of those little uncomfortable conversations where, like, it doesn't seem uncomfortable to the person asking the question, but for the receiver, and I guess, like, again, it's not lost on me that women get asked these kind of questions all the time. I definitely have been asked in interviews before, what are my plans to have kids? And again, it's just, it puts you in an uncomfortable situation where you're like, how do I stop the conversation without making this a really big deal? And then you kind of walk away from it going like, I don't really like, you know what I mean? It's a weird, like those kind of things still happen. But I think, yeah, it's the jokes and the uncomfortable questions and things like that have happened, yeah, since my apprenticeship, that we all kind of just, get through them. But yeah, that probably happens more often than I'd like to see. I'd like to see that change.
Yeah. Honestly, I had no idea people were still being asked that level of personal question because you say it's not comfortable for it doesn't bother the person that's asking it, but when you give the
Mm.
response, that will make them uncomfortable. So do they really want to go there as well? Like how to deal with that? Have we given everybody the
Yeah.
tools then to deal with a uncomfortable conversation that you wish you didn't initiate?
Yeah, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like the most recent one was actually, on a down day. So I had, 30 odd people all standing in the vicinity listening to the conversation. And they went, "Oh, when are you going to have kids?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to have kids." And I thought, "All right, cool. That'll be the end of that." And they went, "Why?" And I was like, "Oh God, like, right, cool. Now we've got to get into this." And I went, "Yeah, well, actually, I kind of them."
Mm,
And all of a sudden, it was like you could hear a pin drop. Like it went from EWPs working and people with forklifts and doing all sorts of stuff to feeling like everyone had just stopped what they were doing and looking at us having this interaction. And I was like, we didn't need to double down. Like we
that's
could have just
just
left it
zip
there. We
it.
could have not asked at all. But yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much going on there, like you know, we did IVF and, the question comes like, "Oh, when's number 2 coming?" And we're like, actually, it's not. Like, we tried and it didn't work." Like,
I think even if that's not the answer, right? Like even if it's just that that person doesn't want to have kids,
mm,
like again, it puts that person in a situation where they've got to now potentially feel like they have to explain why they've made that decision. And then it opens the floor for a debate or for someone who's standing nearby to be offended by that conversation or
mm,
whatever it is. For me, there's no real gain from it,
mm,
unless you're having a one-on-one personal conversation with and you're friendly with that person and you're going, "Oh, how's life going?" And they bring it up.
yeah,
Um, like there's really, like I said, it could be that you've struggled, it could be that it's not an option, or it could be that it's just personal to you. But again, that's what it is, right? It's a personal thing,
hundred,
that you shouldn't ever feel like you need to explain to people.
yeah, that's, yeah, I I don't have the words, but we've just gotta really stop asking, those questions.
Yeah. Look, I think we'll get there.
Let's hope. Let's hope, or let's make that change. And I guess these conversations, that's why they're important to make people aware of, asking that, seemingly throwaway remark or question when it's just not needed or not appropriate. But on a lighter note, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate working in the mining industry?
I think from a maintenance lens, I think probably a 6 or a 7. The reason I say that is there are pockets of really good stuff. And I really love my job and I love the people that I have around me. And I'm really quite fortunate in that space. However, I do think that there's a lot of work to be done around some of those opportunities or the growth, or it just kind of seems like a lot of that happens in office spaces still. And I'd really like to see that kind of infiltrate into on-site in maintenance, seeing those development opportunities or seeing, that kind of stuff happening there. It's, down to things like even, I don't know, Are You Okay Day, being, celebrated in the Brisbane office, but we don't necessarily see that level of commitment on site. Or that level of funding on site above that sort of 7 mark would be good to see some stuff happen at like grassroots level.
Oh, that's really good feedback. All right, we wrap up every buzz chat with a buzzword wrap. Up your experience in mining in the resource sector with one word.
Gratifying.
Thank you very much for joining me on Buzz Chats today, Kim. It's been great chatting.